This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome everyone. We'll start our session today. We go through L2. As a couple of you know me already. My name is Anjum Satar. Can you see the slides? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, welcome everyone. So today's lesson will go through L2, which is about be able to critically evaluate. Yes, that's the key, which will be procurement, operating environment, and legislation. Those will go through. So assess the impact of legislative framework, which will discuss public and private sector, critically assess the role of European Union in the procurement, and we'll look around evaluate the importance of establishing contract procedures, rule and applying. That all will be in our discussion. So please, if you have any question during our delivery, please always ask. You can unmute yourself. You can speak via you can just chat via chat box. Okay.
Yeah.
So the public service, we have a Social Value Act 2012 in the UK. We have a Community Rights Challenges, which we have Act 2012. Freedom of Information. Anybody, any information holding under the Freedom of Information Act, we have a right to ask, the information, what you're holding, you can get the information. General Data Protection Regulation, we have a GDPR. That was initially 2018 and then been updated is 2019 as well. The Public Service Act, which is Social Value Commissioner, required to be considered the economics, environment, and social benefit of their approaches to procurement before the process starts. The requirement to consult on the service design before the procurement, public authority, pre-procurement stage, and the service contract. That all will be in our discussion. So in the UK, nearly 40% of the GDP is public sector spending. This is around 30% of external spending, 150 billion. The scoping, so subject to be matter of the contract, clearly greatly reduce the basis of the challenges, wide market engagement. So we just want to be not, the publicly that's beneficial to the whole society when we do the contract or tenders really, and social requirement in the contracts. Specification must be verifiable clearly within. We have a even bribery act, in UK. 2006 we also need to be followed when we deal these. So making it easier for the small businesses to inform and to bid. Okay, community rights and the challenges we need to be look around. Localism Act, which is we can look around the right to challenge. Decentralization, giving away power to the individual, professional, and community. Community can also be involved in the act, in the tenders and the contract. So right to be challenged, yes. So big society, people, neighborhood, and the community have more power, responsibility to use, create better services and outcome. The right to build and neighborhood planning we need to be, and that's if we want to build the house first, more than the procurement we require. So a community right to challenge under this act, so autonomy for the local government, freedom to act, general power of the competence, greater control over the finances, and freedom for the cities. So cities have their own budget, their own procurement system that need to be followed. The government and accountability, freedom over the governance structure, transparency. That's the more, the transparency, not really back end, getting the commission and the bribery. That's the key purpose of it. Right to bid and as assets of community, and right to challenge, right to build, and neighborhood planning. That's all come. Freedom of information, establish the principle of the public right to know, and they require the public bodies to provide the information when queried by the member of. We have other is called the NCFE principle, which is all about ethics and moral principle. Those people are working in the public office, they have so those we can look around as well, which some point next lesson I'll go through as well. Public bodies have to respond within 20 days, although the deadline can be extended within certain limits. The key principle act, the purpose blind, yes, no need to be give the reason for request, and applicant blind, all the requests must be treated equally. Under the freedom of information, the government agreed to 1.5 billion bailout to one of the most troubled school in the flagship academy, and the program tends to be days before 2005 election. The minister and MPs claimed the thousands of pounds on taxis as the part of 5.9 billion in the expense of the travel. So they've been investigated. The foreign diplomats who are diplomatic immunity as accused rape and sexually assault and child abuse, and these happen while working in the United Kingdom. The UK support nuclear weapon program by selling to 20 tons of that's huge. So the general regulations intend to be strengthened and unified data protection for all the individuals within the EU. So you can't really move the data to a third country without the permission of ICO. ICO is called the Information Commission Officer. So enterprise, processing the data, which we can look around the personal data from the EU citizen and need to be GDPR compliant. They can face, the penalties. We can look around up to 4% worldwide turnover, and the 20 million, whichever is the higher, that can be fined. We used to be old laws, which is GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. Now we have a GDPR has been replaced in 2018, 2019. So impact on the public-private sector of these legislations, we need to be look around. These are all the principle. Whenever you go any website now, there is you need to be get the consent like accepted cookies. Yes, that's why new data, which is include the electronic data as well, you can't transfer to the third country without the permission of ICA. The right of the data subject, it can be enhanced to the information right to the forgotten. We can look around the data breaches reporting. We can look around the penalties can be 20 million or 4% of annual turnover or well by so is effectively being formed in 25th of the 5th and substantially penalties and being updated some section of it. Any question? If you have, please feel free ask.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, then we have 2.2 where we look the critically assessing the role of European Union in procurement. We said earlier in the previous lesson as well, public procurement refer to the process of the public authorities such as the government departments or the local authorities purchase work and the goods from the companies which have to be selected and purpose. An example include building state school, purchasing furnitures and trays and giving the contract like cleaning contract and various others. EU procurement and directive set the legal framework of and apply when the public authorities or utilities seek to acquire these supplies. So we need to be follow the legislation and that need to be more transparency. That's all the purpose of this. The purpose of the procurement directive is to be open up and the public procurement market and ensure the movement of the supply service work within EU, and EU laws should be reflect and the value for money really need to be focused because the government money is a public money that shouldn't be. So we need to be planning, we need tender, we award contract implementation, we need embedding, we need to look around the rules. So these key legislation we need to be make sure we follow 100%, otherwise we are not complied by the government rule. Yes, enabling, so need to be EU relevance. So that's it's illegal in because it happened good few instant like BA system, British Airways Aeronautical System contract with the Saudi government back-end commission, and that came in the public domains as well. That's back in 2012. So that's a procurement which is involved. That's breaching, and that's the always any laws whatever will make in the public interest is the key any countries. So remedies directive is the core public procurement legislation that enable economic operator to be informed the right firm to the public procurement directive everywhere in the EU required to decision on the contract falling in the scope and the public procurement that need to be and review effectively. Okay, remedies can be yes, establish the minimum EU review standard, most provisions in the remedies because it can be fine under it can be crime if they involved in because the legislation is a criminal if not fulfill the law that come under the criminal. So it can be involve the criminal, the proceedings. So we availability of the review procedure, material scope, what, personal scope, who, and the time, pre-contractual remedies in interim measures, and setting aside, decision taken unlawfully, standstill period and automatic suspension, post-contractual remedies, ineffective alternative penalties and compensation. That's huge, so enable buyers to run a procurement faster with the less, red tapes. More red tapes, it can be, of course, the more scrutiny we need to be look around, greater focus and getting the right supplier, best standard according to the sound commercial practices, and above set, the financial threshold. If you're buying supplies and the services are the work, we laid down the public contract, that's we need to be, and awarding contract, because like, then it's happening back in commission, not open tenders in many developing countries, and in develop, the legislation being set up in a way, of course the thing hidden happen, but it's not clearly, that's, the public interest is the first priority. Clear support of the procurement engagement, clear obligation to prevent. So conflict of interest is like your family, friends, if you've been awarded a contract and back and they set the company, that's illegal to do so as well. You have to clearly declare, there is no conflict of interest. So electronic availability of documents, self-certification, European single procurement document, duty to comply with the reports and the information to the cabinet office, which is government department. So evaluate the importance of establishing contract procedures, rule, and financial regulation. That's, which we need to look around. Overview the procurement process, identify the need. Do we really need for procurement? We outline the procurement plan to where we get all the quotes from various suppliers. We issue the RFC, requirements, and then tender evaluation, contract term and conditions, supply chain management, a warehouse management, asset management, where we bought it, how much we bought it, but it's double entry bookkeeping. That's why it's very important. That will help, to track and reduce the fraud. But it's again, government department, some security issues, it can't be tell what was the source of the supply. It can't be open audit, but it can be look around other companies, and department can be open audit as well. So need identification, budget identification, purchasing strategies, which we need to be look around. Okay, so when we'll do the procurement, we need to identify the project, why we need it, identify the required civil work, and the goods service. We need to identify the procurement method. We need to indicate, date of tenders and deliveries and implementation. There should be a penalties involved if you don't deliver or the supplier not deliver, that can be acknowledged. Any question here, please?
No, clear. Actually, that's what I do for my work. So
Okay.
tendering management. So we usually work with governments and other governmental related sectors. So that's basically what I do for my work. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's, basically all the legislation and more transparency. So acknowledge the needs and the suppliers. So determine, the criteria. You can look around inventory method, first in, first out, last in, first out, average costing systems, all yes, and shortlisted suppliers you have in your panel, and they are not involved in the child labors and all of this, yes, which we need to be look around, evaluate, and select, the supplier, and determine the methodologies that need to be look around. And then we have a key terminologies like which is involved in, like I discuss about Incoterms as well, which we look around the international trading. RFB, we can request for bid. RFI, request for information, request for proposal, and we can look around request for quotation, and then the request for tender. These all we need to be invitation letters, gathered information, document posted, yeah, it and invitation. So you're doing it, so that's really we need to be look around, and we need to be follow the steps. So selections and economical, financial standing, and technical and professional ability. We need qualification stage, the criteria for rejection of suppliers. We can look around selection stage, selection of suppliers who are capable, they have a credibility. Award stage, we can award on the basis of the lowest acceptable price with economically and their reliability as well. We can look around the contractual management stage one we discussed yesterday as well. in our lesson: request, stage 2 generate, stage 3 negotiate, stage 4 approval, stage 5 is the execute, and stage 6 the capture, and stage 7 is comply, report, review, yes, and renew. That's we need to be follow these stages. And that's that we need asset management, asset inventory, what the asset, where we bought, how much worth of asset revaluation. We normally use the terminology in accounts. We need installation and testing, monitoring and replacement, end of the life of the assets, huh? So in the procurement, we always look around all the term and condition within the laws, like if the delivery not been made within the time frame, there can be a penalty. If the quality not, what was the LC of it, if it's a foreign procurement and the tender you gave, who is, and we deal with the, of course, ministries and embassies. And yes, that's we need to be look around. Yes, wherever we'll do, and we need to be look around. We always use the term think globally, act locally. Yes, and look around the local legislation. That's really we need to be follow. Any question?
No, pretty clear actually. Yeah.
Okay, so today really we discuss about all this, which is based on LO2, and next lesson we'll go through LO3 and we'll look here and link more examples. Huh?
Okay, perfect. So tomorrow, same time?
Same time, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Have
Thank
a
you
nice
very much.
time. Have a good weekend.
You
Thanks.
too. Bye-bye.